Hi, thanks for joining us for Listen Up Home Buyers with HomeBuyer Brokerage. I'm Victoria Ray Henderson, and I am joined by Lisa Velenovsky Hayashi.
And we are here to talk to you about how to buy a home in 10 minutes or less. Well, you can't buy the home in 10 minutes or less,
Right.
but we are providing you information for those who just want the down and dirty
Right.
about the basic steps for buying a home.
100% right. Obviously, you can call us. You can always, reach out to us for any questions, but we wanted to be able to deliver this to you quickly on social media so that you'd have a basic idea of how this works. So, Lisa, why don't you kick us off?
Well, the number one step, and it's getting pre-qualified or pre-approved to buy a home by a reputable lender. And that process essentially involves going to a lender and providing information about your assets, liabilities, credit report, so that they can do an analysis of your financial fitness and essentially let you know about how much you can spend on a home. And this is really important, I think, because a lot of people don't understand some of the expenses that go into it. So not only do you understand how much you can afford or how much money you have to buy a home, but your agent also does.
You'll want to meet with the lender and go over all your loan options, and the lender is going to be able to explain how much cash you're going to need to have in order to buy the property that you're interested in.
And I think one thing, this is just sort of a broad generalization, but closing costs in the DMV area generally range from about 2.5% to 3.5% of the purchase price. And I think a lot of people are surprised to understand that, and they may not have taken that into consideration when looking at their available funds.
Yeah, true. And keep in mind that you can always go to homebuyerbrokerage.com to learn about some of the home buying programs that might be available for you. Maryland has programs, the district, Virginia, not so much, but in those other two jurisdictions.
And your lender should be able to go over all of the programs that are applicable to you.
The third and very important part of the process is who is going to be working for you when you're buying a home.
Part of our job is to make this seem like a very easy process and not a lot of stress on the buyer.
Yeah.
So I think in the end, actually, you can end up saving money by using an agent that's experienced.
Yes, I agree. And the most important place to start is, how do you evaluate properties? I mean, you might see lots of pretty pictures online, but you need to go out with somebody who's going to tell you what's right about a house, but also what is wrong about a house. And that is something that is in critical need right now, because you are making the biggest investment that you're going to make, I guess, until you do it again. And you want to make sure that that investment is sound. You start with the next step, which is creating a needs and wants list. And this is something that is going to change over time, but you've got to sit down, especially if you're buying with someone else, and go over what you absolutely have to have in a house and then what you kind of want in a house.
You doing, or your buyer doing, the wants and needs list, but also your agent helping you take into consideration certain lifestyle needs that you may not have considered.
Yeah, really important point. Once you finally find the right location, the right house, the right lot, the neighborhood fits, you've investigated everything, and there's a lot to that. You want to check if there are any things planned in the master plan for the area. After you figure all that out, and now you've found something, you have to determine the offer price.
The offer contains certain protections for the buyer. And among those protections would be the ability to get a home inspection. And so that you can have a qualified professional inspector come in and take a look at the house, and you can determine together whether you want to move forward, whether there are certain repairs you want to ask for. That's one protection. Another protection is the appraisal contingency, where the lender sends in a professional appraiser to determine at that point of time what they feel the value of that house is. Mm-hmm. And it's very important, because that's what the lender uses to determine finally what amount they're going to be able to lend you. Another condition is the earnest money deposit, which is the amount of good faith funds that you put down soon after the contract is ratified, which is held in escrow. And if you go to closing, that money is put towards your down payment. If you break on a legitimate contingency, that money goes back to the buyer. So those are some of the terms that you need to discuss with your agent when preparing an offer.
In addition to that, if you're buying a place that is a condominium, a cooperative, or in an HOA, you have a built-in protection period. In Washington, D.C., the condo review period is 3 business days. In Maryland, it's 7 calendar days. And in Virginia, you've got 3 calendar days. And what that means is when you're buying into a property like a condominium, you have to be comfortable with the way they run that business, because that is what it is. And you want to look at the meeting minutes. What are they talking about? Is everything working well in the building? So during that period of time, you're evaluating the building and the way that this condo association runs their business. If you don't like it, then we get you out of the transaction as long as it's within that review period.
Once you've discussed all of these terms with your agent, you as the buyer will be making the ultimate decision about the terms of the offer. And once that's put together, then you sign all of the documentation and your agent submits that offer to the listing agent.
So let's say your offer gets accepted and you go through the home inspection and you go through all those contingencies that Lisa mentioned. That is getting closer to settlement.
At the beginning of the process, the lender is going to provide you with what's called a good faith estimate of what this whole transaction is going to cost you, including any lender fees, any what we call prepaids, any taxes, all of these other things that may go into the cost of the transaction. And as we get closer to the end, then they will provide you that final number where you've got a line-by-line breakdown of every one of the costs to the buyer and how much money you need to bring to close. At that time as well, you'll be preparing to transfer any utilities over in your name. You'll be preparing to do the final walkthrough, which is immediately before settlement. So these are these, I don't want to say last minute, but these are these items as you come closer to actual settlement that you will be dealing with.
Most important thing is that wherever you are, you want to find a buyer agent or an exclusive buyer agent who is going to be guiding you through this process. I think the biggest compliment I ever got from a client was sitting at settlement with her, and she looked at me and she said, "Wow, that was really easy." And I loved that because that's what I wanted for her.
That's part of our job. Is to make this process feel less difficult, less stressful. You know, we want you to just feel that moment at the end that I'm going home. I'm going to my home.
Yeah, that's why we do this. Lisa, is there anything else you want to add?
I think you've covered everything. I think that's it. Let's call it a wrap.
Well, we are always available to answer any questions. I am Victoria Ray Henderson with HomeBuyer Brokerage.
And I'm Lisa Velenovsky Hayashi with HomeBuyer Brokerage.
And we're so glad you joined us on this episode of Listen Up Homebuyers.